President Trump says the U.S. has seized an oil tanker off the coast of Venezuela. Attorney General Pam Bondi released this video of troops descending on the vessel yesterday. The U.S. Coast Guard and the Pentagon executed the seizure warrant on the tanker, which the U.S. said was transporting sanctioned oil from Venezuela and Iran. The Trump administration has built up a large military presence in the region as it accuses Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro of helping traffic drugs.
So joining us this morning, we have retired Marine Colonel Mark Hansian, Senior Advisor of the Center for Strategic and International Studies. Colonel, good morning, and thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me on the show.
All right, so we'll start here. These videos released by Pam Bondi here, they look dramatic. They look like there's something out of a movie, but this is real life. Just talk about the power or the manpower, the logistics, and the intelligence needed to go ahead and carry out an operation of this size.
Well, this operation is quite routine for the U.S. military and the Coast Guard, the Navy, Coast Guard, and Special Forces train for this routinely. The Coast Guard does this all the time. This is their bread and butter. It's called VBSS, Visit, Board, Search, and Seizure. Coast Guard does it for drugs. They do it for illegal fishing for a variety of purposes. Sometimes they'll come alongside in a small boat. Here we saw them coming with a helicopter. Look, it's said that these are Coast Guard personnel. Looks like a Navy SH-60S helicopter, so it might have been a joint operation. But it's quite routine. Once they get on board, they'll go up to the bridge to seize control, also probably go down to the engine room. The crews are trained to not resist, so it's very unlikely that there would be violence. In an unusual situation, maybe they would, but that rarely happens.
What do you think the strategy, Colonel, of going after this oil tanker is? What does the military hope to accomplish out of seizing this vessel?
Well, there are two possible purposes. One is further intimidation of the Maduro regime, and we've seen an escalating series of actions. We saw the Ford carrier come into the Caribbean. We saw the CIA authorized to take action against the Maduro regime. We've seen flybys with bombers, B-1s, B-52s, and recently F-18s off of the Ford. This is another step up. The administration clearly is hoping that the regime will collapse, that maybe the security forces will force some regime change, or Maduro will be convinced to leave. What will be important is to see whether there's a follow-on action, for example, the seizure of another tanker. If that happens, then this could be a blockade of Venezuela. Because Venezuela is so dependent on oil, this will put them under tremendous pressure. They couldn't last very long.
And Colonel, we've been talking about this escalation, right? And this could be seen by the international community of just, again, as you said, adding another step. So as the military, what do you prepare for in terms of potential retaliation, even if Venezuela might be at a slight disadvantage here?
It's unlikely that Venezuela will retaliate militarily because they're not in a very strong position. The United States has also positioned forces to protect against such an eventuality. You may remember that early on in this campaign, they flew some F-16s over one of our ships. The United States sent F-35s, a more advanced fighter, into the Caribbean to prevent that sort of thing happening again. I'm sure they're reaching out to Russia and China, trying to get some support, although Russia and China have been reluctant to do too much. They have supported diplomatically. So we'll see what Venezuela does, but the wild card is the cartels. They could strike back. They're known for their violence. They're very disaggregated. And although the tanker incident doesn't affect them, all of these vessel attacks do. They could respond with a terrorist attack.
You know, we talk a lot about our relationship with Russia, Ukraine, China. We don't talk often about Venezuela or any of the other countries that are in the Caribbean. How are those relationships right now?
Well, the new national security strategy, which came out about 10 days ago, puts primary emphasis on hemispheric security and homeland security, moving it away from China, the Pacific, and Europe. So this is going to be much more important to the Trump administration. The efforts to stop drugs, for example, and stop illegal immigration have already had a prominent role, and I think we'll see more of that. In this particular instance, the Venezuelans don't have a lot of support in the region. They've not been a good neighbor. The Brazilians have been particularly annoyed, so they don't have a lot of support. On the other hand, the Trump administration has been threatening other countries. Trump just threatened Mexico and Colombia. So this could expand, although at this point it's hard to say whether that's truly a new policy or whether it's Trump's rhetoric.
All right, things certainly getting interesting there in the Caribbean, something to always keep an eye on. Retired Marine Colonel Mark Hansian, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Queen City News Plus. Just search Queen City News on your smart TV's app store.